Well, good morning, everybody. This video is for Tuesday, January 11th, 2022, and we are looking at today John's Gospel. We're in the 18th chapter. We're going to look at verses 15 through 18 today. Yesterday, we left off with Jesus at the house of Ananias, and they have left and had left and headed off to the current high priest. They were at the previous high priest's home, which was extraordinarily unusual. But they were heading to, makes one wonder, I digress, to be that Ananias was actually the power behind the throne, so to say. But they are on their way to the home of Caiaphas, who is the current high priest at that time that Jesus is being crucified. And ironically, as we get to this point, almost exactly 2 years ago today, we were in Israel in the home of Caiaphas, what they believe to be the home of Caiaphas, and down in the pit where Jesus is going to be staying after they flog him. We were down in that pit and saw that, one of the more moving parts of being in Israel. But let's go ahead with verses 15 to 18. 15 to 18, yes, in the 18th chapter of John. Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. Since the disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest. But Peter was standing outside at the gate. So the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out, spoke to the woman who guarded the gate, and brought Peter in. The woman said to Peter, "You are not also one of his disciples, are you?" He said, "I am not." Now the slaves and the police had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing around it and warming themselves. Peter also was standing with them and warming himself. Okay. One of the things that's interesting here is that, unlike in the other Gospels, the Synoptics, where they ran away. I mentioned that yesterday, I believe, or maybe before, where they've run away. Here, they've not only not run away, but they've tagged along behind. And this is one of those sections where we get into discussion, and a lot of commentators and ministers, probably more than commentators, will call this other disciple, John, because John doesn't identify himself ever as the idea. Also, the beloved disciple is often thought to be John. It may or may not be. We don't know. And I don't know why we have that strong inclination to try to inject that role to John, or to project that role onto John. And perhaps it was or wasn't. We don't know. We don't know if it's even the same one. We don't know if this is the same disciple that is going with him to the tomb or not. We just don't know that. It's another disciple. It's not an unnamed disciple. So Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. This other disciple knows the high priest. He's known to him. And so he has access to this inner courtyard where not just any old soul is going to get in there. They're going to be guarded, and it seems that the gatekeeper is this woman that's there. She is guarding the gate. No doubt she has police with her, and she's the one that's the one that is deciding who gets in and who doesn't. But she's certainly not the guard of the gate. There certainly would have been somebody else there. But this other disciple, this unknown disciple, is known to the high priest, so much so that he can bring in guests into the courtyard, and he goes and gets Peter, who wasn't able to get in past the lady, and brings him in. But the lady questions him as he comes. Well, you're not one of Jesus' disciples, too, are you? Well, she knows that this other fellow is, apparently, because she says, "You are not also one of this man's disciples." Also, meaning she knows that this fellow that asked her to let him come in, regardless of the fact that he's a Jesus follower, he must have enough standing with the authorities that he's able to get this person in. It must be someone with some standing, probably more standing. That would speak against it being John, because most people think that John, in order for John to have written the Gospel of John can't be very old at all. He's got to be in his very early teens. At this point, this person must have higher standing in the community than just a boy. So it's probably not John, in my opinion. But at any rate, he gets Peter in. The woman says, you're not also one of his disciples, are you? No, 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 no. For pity's sakes, give me a break. John, or Peter, don't you think for just a moment that they know this? And what about the other disciple? What is he thinking about Peter denying that he's a disciple? What's Jesus going to think about that? We'll talk about that later. But who do we think we're kidding? Think about ourselves. When we do things that are contrary to our Christian faith, to our proclaiming to be Christians, contrary to our proclamation of Christianity, when we do something contrary to that, what are we saying to the world? What are we saying? Is God's reaction very similar to that other disciple's reaction when Peter says this? Does he go, who do you think you're kidding? What are you doing? What's wrong with you? Shouldn't that be, certainly God's reaction when we go about life doing things? God's got to be shaking his head and thinking, what is wrong with you? Who do you think you're fooling, folks? You're not fooling anybody. And you're denying God is what you're doing, denying his place in your life. And that's very much a sin. Peter is sinning here, right, by denouncing God, denouncing that he is, in fact, one of the followers. So I think there's very much a life application in this. We look at this and can put ourselves in that role there, and the world is looking at us and saying, wait a minute, I thought you were one of those Christian guys and gals. What's up with that? Oh, now your behavior is what's saying, oh, no, no, I'm not. It's your behavior, maybe not your voice, but your behavior is saying it. So I'm going to leave you off there. Very much have a blessed day. Please, please, please be a blessing to someone today. If you are here in the Midwest where weather is getting nice for the very middle part of January, it's unbelievably nice. Please, if you enjoy these devotions, please subscribe down below and feel free to share these videos with others. We'd appreciate it. Have a blessed day, as I said, and please be a blessing to someone today. Bye-bye.